All right, so I'm going to give you all some LinkedIn building blocks. And as I get into this, by show of hands, how many of you actually have your LinkedIn profile? Excellent. Using one hand on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being amazing, what's the quality of your LinkedIn profile, in your opinion? Good. I love the honesty. I appreciate that. Okay. I'm going to give you guys a few techniques and some best practices and some easy ways to do this. My encouragement for you is spend 3-4 weeks, update your LinkedIn profile. If you can do it faster, great. Okay. As you know, there are many, many things that go on in a LinkedIn profile. I am going to focus on 4 main things. And these are the things that I think are most critical. If you do some of the other things, fantastic, but non-critical path. And you can build over time, okay? So those 4 things, the headline on your LinkedIn, the photo that you have, and I will talk about that. Actually, it's imagery. I really need to change this to imagery. The professional experience you have and your education. Okay, now if you guys go out and you look at, for example, my LinkedIn profile, you will see some demonstration of these best practices. Recognize that my profile is going to be a little bit different than yours because I'm not a job seeker. I also, frankly, use my LinkedIn profile for marketing purposes. And what I also encourage is look at your profiles both online and on your phone, because if you optimize it for your phone, it tends to present better because a lot of people are going to look at your profile online. Okay. A couple key things. You should have your name, and obviously, I mean, this is going to sound really dumb, but you should have your name clear and what you want to be called. Okay. And I mean, this is so stupid, but I have changed it over the years. There was a period in time when I went by my full name, which is Pamela. I have my credentials in my LinkedIn profile, the fact that I have a doctorate degree and an MBA. I do that for the purposes of when I engage with people in higher education. It's just a little thing that kind of knocks on the door. Some of you, as you can see by demonstration, I do not accurately pronounce your name the first time when I look at the spelling of it. By the way, people have mispronounced my name for years. I've been called Anne. I've been called Jan. I've been called a few other things too, but one would think that Pam is pretty simple. I say that because I think I am very comfortable asking people to pronounce their name. It's very important to me, even though I get it wrong at times, that you correct me. But one of the things that you can do is in your LinkedIn profile, you can put a phonetic pronunciation of your name. And people sometimes like this because when I reach out to you, it creates more ease of connection. Okay, so that's just something to think about, especially in networking. I was on the call last night with somebody for a networking event. They did not introduce themselves. And then I'm trying to, I like to use people's names and I felt very awkward. So, think a little bit about that. Not a major thing, but when you are networking with people, the easier you can make it for the other person, the better, okay? The other thing that you guys have in your profiles is your title. And this is editable. It is what you set it to be. I am very specific about students. I want it to have the name of your university and student. And then, I mean, you guys at Babson, your degrees are, I think, consistent, but I may not, as somebody who doesn't attend Babson, I might not know that. So you could say BS in management or whatever the exact degree is. And then you want to use some other keywords like strategy and consulting, product management, fintech. You know, there's some other words that tell me where you are going. This is hugely valuable because when I look at your LinkedIn profile, I get immediately an understanding. It's like the ultimate elevator pitch. So if you look at, let me see if I know anybody. Well, if we look at Connor, see if Connor's got some best practices. Kind of. So he's got several titles, okay? So this is one way, right? You guys have multiple roles. And that is one way. Stewart here, he has his current school, right? So for you all, that would be Babson. If you go back and you look at my profile, it's going to have on top my company and then my school. And those things can be set. So if you all have, an internship right now, you can use that company. If you have a job on campus, or you're a teaching assistant or supporting a class or something like that, because these can be set. What I don't recommend that you do is have them be a prior job, because you're no longer at that job, because it's confusing to people. There's nothing that I hate more than when I look at somebody's profile and I'm like, oh, wow, that's so cool. You're doing an internship with Peloton. And they're like, oh, no, that was last summer. Oh, okay. It's like, well, why aren't you keeping your profile clean? Okay, so that section is the main section of your profile, and you want it to be very current and very present. And you want to make it remember, your profiles are for other people. They're not for you all. They're for me, the person who's going to be talking to you. And that top section, if I look at nothing else in your profile, should give me a very good clue about who you are. Okay. That is very straightforward in some ways. Okay. Now, the rest of it, and I'm going to come back to the about section, and let's go back to, if I can, I'm going to go back to Connor. So the rest of it should align to your resume. So this is a job that you had, here's Connor's work with us. This is the work with the Consulting Association, academic year internship last internship, couple last internships, blah, blah. This should follow your resume. And what I usually recommend is print out your resume and make those two things identical. Be picky about what you put here, because when I scroll on my phone, the more I scroll, the more I get a cramp in my thumb. So make it very easy to get through that, because then what follows is your education. And that should also follow your resume, with a couple of exceptions. There might be some things. So, as you guys can see, Connor's resume has his high school experience. That's great. In LinkedIn, you can do that because you have a little bit more space. You have an ability to put your activities in. You might have other certificate programs and training programs. You guys may want to put this AIMS program in there. If you're in the SPEAR program as well, I think a couple people are in that program as well. You can include that, okay? This is the part where what I do as a starting point is I take a resume and I just fill this in without any content. I just fill in name of organization, what your title is, the time period, and no content. Okay. I'll come back to the content, right? And then do the same for your education. Fill it in and get the skeleton. And that is a fantastic starting point. You should feel comfortable networking with anybody with that content out there. All right. And then as a next step, what evolves are two things. So one, if you see there are some experiences that have short descriptions, 3 or 4 sentences. They are written in first person. It's not a copy paste from your resume. And it has keywords in it that highlight certain types of skills that would be beneficial for the consulting job. And also, ideally, maybe something that was an impact that you made. So it has the same read takeaway as what's in your resume, but the resume is not first person. LinkedIn is first person. Resume may have a specific number like 10%. I don't put specific numbers in LinkedIn because it's a public profile. Okay. And that's something where take out a piece of paper, copy paste from your resume, make things really short. Okay. Like 3-4 sentences. Then the final thing that you all want to do is come up to the About section. And the About section has a way that you can do it well, there's a way that you can do it average, and then there's a way that you can do it kind of blah. I would like you guys to be exceptional. So the About section should be interesting. It should be a story. And the way that it typically is organized is past, present, and future. It's 3 paragraphs. The past is your spark. Hey, when I was a kid, I really got inspired by this movie, or I read this book, or I had this experience with my uncle, or I came to the US from such and such country because my family wanted to, broaden my horizons. Whatever the almost origin story is that you guys have. That's your spark. That's interesting because when I read your LinkedIn profile, every single one of you is going to be different because you all have different origin stories. It's like your fingerprint. The second paragraph is a snapshot. It's like your elevator pitch now. I'm a student at Babson. I'm focusing on finance and entrepreneurship. I had an internship after my freshman year that I did such and such. I'm involved in this campus activity. And I've been very fortunate to get to work with Professor so-and-so to help with research in the area of blah, blah, blah. Right? It's very present, like it encapsulates everything kind of academically and work experience as of now. And then the third paragraph is the future. This is what you aspire to do. This is the stuff that you intend to impact. Going forward in my career, I want to enable companies to drive efficiencies through digitizing their practices. I want to help companies with innovation. I want to help companies be more customer centric. I want to create more access for underrepresented minorities to get banking. I want to attack the unbanked. I want to do global business. I want to build international relationships, right? Anything is fair game. And then you just have to find the way to write that, the prose, so that it's 3 nice short paragraphs. By the way, not everybody does this on their LinkedIn. This is a LinkedIn best practice. If you look up any of the LinkedIn materials, this is what LinkedIn suggests, because what it does is it helps me as the reader get to know you as a person and what makes you tick and what you're interested in. And when I talk to you, I kind of know you a little bit already, okay? The middle ground is just the middle paragraph. Just do the middle paragraph. It's kind of a snapshot of who you are. Maybe it talks a little bit about, I'm looking forward to pursuing internships in corporate strategy. I'm really interested in, e-commerce and retail. And, as I come back to Babson as a junior, this will be my focus, right? You can make it a little bit less story oriented, but it's not as effective. So I really advocate for the 3 paragraph approach. Now, if you guys look at my paragraphs, my about section in my profile, it's a little bit longer. I go through and I edit about once a year, but it's not that much longer, right? And I'm happy with my profile, right? The other nice thing that you can do if you wanted to is add a 4th dimension to your LinkedIn about section. And below that 3rd paragraph, you can add skills. You can actually say, key skills, A, comma, B, comma, C, comma, D, comma. And that also kind of gives people a little bit of a synthesis of your background. Okay, so the point is in that LinkedIn about section, you have a lot of flexibility, okay? I will encourage all of you, and I know a few people dropped off at 4. When you all are doing this, do it together, okay? This is a wonderful thing to do in small groups to review. I'm actually going to assign partners to do a review of your LinkedIn profile, but get other people's read on it. And does it represent who you are? The final thing that you can do in your profile, I mentioned the photo. So this is one of those things where with all of my clients, we do photos. Connor will tell you that we did a photo shoot this summer with our interns. I was the Ansel Adams of the group. So if you do not like his photo, you can blame me. I had mine done by a professional photographer. I have all my clients do photos with a professional photographer. We use what's known as an environmental style. If you see my picture, you can see in the back of it, there's kind of buildings. It was actually done inside one of our public libraries. With my clients, we've done them at the office. So you don't want a portrait style, which has like a gray or a blue back. You want to be very face forward, okay? So face square with a smile. You want to be your best professional self, how you want people to see you in the work environment. If you're somebody who has long hair normally, great, maybe pull it back a little bit. I have one of my close friends always runs a streak of color in her hair. She likes to be a rebel. So she runs that streak of color and she likes to show that. And that's kind of one of her hallmarks. Gentlemen, if sometimes facial hair, long hair, short hair, think about how you want to present professionally. And what I also encourage is color. You should never wear black in photographs. always, always have color. And whether it doesn't matter. I wear scarves in photos because it adds a little bit of accessory. Some of you might want to wear a suit. Some of you might want to be more business casual. It doesn't matter. Just as long as it represents who you are. And if you're more artistic, go bolder. If you're doing something that's more on, the conservative career path, try to be a little bit more conservative. But so the way that you guys can get a professional photo without having to buy a photographer is to work with each other. You can now do a portrait photo on your phones. I don't know about the Droid phones, but the iPhone has a portrait setting. They're fantastic. I think this is more important now because we aren't meeting people face to face. Okay, so remember that. And then the last thing I'll say about the imagery. So LinkedIn now allows you to put a background. If you guys see, the background on my profile page is the imagery that we use in our software. And that's intentional. I've had different photographs there. I have a client of mine sent me a personal photograph from Arches National Park because I have Archer in my name of the company, and they thought it would be really cool. I've used photos of Chicago. It doesn't matter, right? It really depends on who you are, but make a choice and use a background photo. So the last thing I'm going to say for about 5 minutes, and then if you guys have any questions, I'm going to give you a task in your homework to email people. So we're going to start networking. We're going to start doing it over our course. The big thing is just reach out. No fear, no worry. I do this all the time because I want to practice what I preach. Last night, I sent an email to Mark Randolph, who's one of the co-founders of Netflix. I heard him on a podcast, and he said, oh, if you ever want to talk to me, send me an email. So I did. He asked, so I did it. I send Reid Hoffman an email once every 6 months. You guys know Reid Hoffman, right? Because I listen to Masters of Scale. I have a lot of respect for him as an entrepreneur. I heard him on a fireside chat. He did a fireside chat with the Chicago booth dean a couple weeks ago. So the dean of my business school, alma mater. And I waited a little bit and I sent him a note. And every time I send him a note, I say, Reid, one of these days, I think you're going to invest in my company and I want to be a guest on your podcast. I usually include something kind of clever in it. I had a paragraph about Palm Pilots because he mentioned that on this fireside chat. I don't think I'm offending him. I try to tell him thank you because I think that he is a generous educator of entrepreneurs. I keep it short. And, one of these days after I've sent, a few of these, I'm actually going to try to really get on his schedule. Right now, I just sort of tell him, hey, I heard what you had to say and it was valuable. You guys are going to be more active, but you want to just do it, okay? That means you're going to plan who it is you want to network with. So over the course of the next week, I'm going to ask you guys to think about one person that you want to have a conversation with. Could be a recruiter from a consulting firm, could be a consultant, could be a former consultant, could be a Babson alumnus, doesn't matter. And you're going to kind of plan out that discussion and you're going to figure out how you want to engage that person. Maybe you see something that they've posted on LinkedIn and you're going to comment on it. And then you're going to try to connect with them and say, I read your article or I read your posting and I really appreciated it. Would you mind having, I'm a student, I'm going to be looking at consulting. I'm wondering if maybe you would have 20 minutes to talk and share with me a little bit about your journey to Deloitte. All right. And then, Joanne, you made the comment, I think, about the second connection. Well, what I have here on the slide are things that you can do for a second connection. Hey, Pam, during our conversation, you mentioned that you really enjoy historical fiction reading. I happen to know this book. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's one of my favorites. I just thought I would share it with you. And if you find it interesting, let me know. That's how to engage people in a second conversation. I see people all the time on LinkedIn. It's their birthday. I sent, somebody that I haven't probably talked to in 5 years a note today and said, hey, Dan, it's been a while since we chatted. I hope you're well in this, kind of unusual time. I know today is your birthday. I just wanted to send some birthday wishes and hope you have a great day. And if you find some time in your schedule, I'd love to grab a half hour and just catch up. And I heard from him in like 8 minutes. So there are a lot of ways to keep connected to people and to continue to engage them beyond the transaction of you're trying to move towards getting some type of job opportunity. So think about those things. Hey, I was reading this article and I thought about you. I saw this recipe. I heard this song. I read this book. I thought of this person. I do this all the time in my networking. Let's say that Connor, you have a conversation with somebody and they say something and then you say, oh my gosh, you have to meet my friend Marcelo. I think that you guys would really enjoy each other. You have some common interests. I also know he's interested in your firm. I'd love to introduce you to. Like, that's another wonderful thing to do. It also shows a generosity of spirit. Okay. You won't do that yet. That'll be kind of the second stage. We'll talk more about that. But when you reach out in these emails, keep them short. Talk about why you're connecting with that person. Be warm. State your purpose. I would love to see if you'd be open to a conversation. Might you have 20 minutes just to allow us to get to know each other? Then a quick elevator pitch. We didn't have time to do it this week, but we'll do it next week. Here's my background. I'm interested in recruiting for consulting. Would you be open to meeting? And keep your conversation very focused. If you want them to speak at a class or you want them to participate in a project, be really clear. Okay. And then the last thing that I will say is take the ownership to follow up. So if somebody doesn't reply to you, do not assume that they are ignoring you. Do not assume that they are offended by your request. Do not assume that they are too busy to answer you. Assume that they're just busy. And I get this all the time. I mean, people will email me and then they'll send a second email, and I am actually grateful. It's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for following up. I have a woman that I spoke to today on the phone. We've been trying to have a phone conversation for like 2 months. And the first thing she said to me was, thank you so much for your following up. It has just been crazy. Someone on my team quit. she's got 2 kids in college. It's been crazy. She's like, I just really appreciate your gentle persistence. That was the term she used. So you guys need to take the ownership to follow up. Okay. And don't read into somebody not responding. Don't read into it. Just assume that either you went into spam or the person you caught them at a busy time.